welcome to Intentional Guy. It's good to have you all here today with us. I'm here with uh, John. John is my son, and John. Uh,
Hi, I'm
John
John.
has a special. Yeah, John, say hi to everybody. John was worried if he looked cute or not on here, so we had to make
I look
sure.
beautiful, so it's okay.
John is John is actually in my book that came out exposed. Chapter 12 is entitled John's Story. And John is an incredible young man who has been through a lot in his life, but he is coming out at the top of it. And so I want to show a video clip um, that John did for church that will kind of introduce what we're talking about today.
Hey guys, my name is John Swift. I've been going to Momentum for about 5 years. My story is how I was raped for about 3 years of my life. I had a family friend who I pretty much grew up with his daughter for most of my life. Whenever I was about 12 was the first time he assaulted me. One day he had asked me if I was circumcised. I told him no. I didn't know what that was. He had asked me to show him, and then I did. There was a lot of pretty bad stuff. He would force alcohol down my throat. He would drug my drinks. He would make me go to sleep on his couch to assault me. That went on for about 3 years. I had walked away from church because I wasn't really comfortable with it. I kind of had this huge guilt on my chest, and it was a huge weight, and I didn't feel comfortable with it, so I kind of left. During the time that I walked away, it was tough. When you don't have God in your life, it's hard. There was a lot of depression, there was a lot of anxiety, PTSD. Tried to kill myself, ended up getting Baker acted. Whenever I came back to church, everyone just kind of had a smile on their face. Whenever I found Joe, he was there for me a lot. Then I met Connor. Connor was awesome. Then he kind of just brought more friends, good friends there to me, who also know Jesus, and they're amazing. I saw Justice, my abuser, is in jail right now. If you're a person who feels guilty for something, whether it's stealing, lying, you're getting assaulted as a minor or even an adult, it's not your fault. It's not something to feel guilty about, but I understand that guilt. If you have some sort of trauma or guilt or fear, anger, that's not who you are. You're not any of those things. God makes you who you are, and God's not going to make you one of those things.
Wow. John, as a parent, first off, I want to say how proud I am of you and how incredibly brave you are in just doing that video right there. That was filmed to actually play for the youth group. And John has an incredible story, and it's, it's not an easy story, is it?
No.
So, no. But, I want to take a few moments here today because there's a lot of people. When I wrote my book, I talked about, well, it's got John's chapter in it, and then I reveal in there something that none of my family knew, that I had been sexually assaulted when I was a young kid too. And after I wrote this book and it came out, there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear in letting that book out. But I have gotten a lot of emails, letters, and things from other people who can relate so much to this. And a good friend of mine that you met, John, James Noggles, he read the book and he told me, and I didn't tell you till today, but how incredibly proud he was and how strong he thought you were for sharing that in the book.
That's cool.
But enough. And I think you're going to find out a lot of people, God's going to take what you're doing, and you're going to see a lot of lives change by being brave about it. But it's your story. So I want you to tell a little bit because it's that's just a small part of the story because it
Yeah.
started there was a journey for you that you had to take. And I
Yeah.
gotta say, as parents, it was hard for me and your mom to sit back and watch, but God had to take you on a journey, didn't he?
Yeah.
Why don't
Yeah.
you
And
go
it
and
sucks
share
we all
that?
had to go through that. Um, so, well, it kind of started with obviously the assaulting. That was pretty much all in the video. There was a little bit more that went into it, but everything else that happened was kind of just downhill from there. Um, I got away from church, but during that process, I was still going to church. But then I left for about probably a year and a half, and then during that, I started working at a grocery store near me, and me and my buddy started stealing money from the grocery store, and then we obviously ended up getting caught. We obviously ended up getting in trouble and getting charges. Now they were really lenient on us; they only gave us probation, but at that moment, it was kind of just a snap, like, oh crap, because I've never been in that much trouble. I've never even gotten referrals at school, so
No, but I think what's important that people don't know is um, when we found out that this how we found out about the sexual abuse was actually reading it in a paper. The man was charged with another youth, and this guy was basically like from a mentor to you that we saw, and we didn't know he was grooming you. And we had approached John, and John wasn't ready at that point to share it. And it was hard watching John um, because what you're describing right now, do you remember what my response was when you came home that night?
yeah, you were just like
What was
super
it?
chill. You were
Yeah,
just
because
sitting on the couch.
I told you I had been waiting for something like this to happen because I saw you running from God, and um, I your story hit so hard. I didn't deal with my story. I never dealt with my sexual abuse until um, yours was revealed, and then I was forced to, you
Yeah,
know. So I didn't mean to interrupt your story, but I wanted people to see that side that, you were running and
yeah.
you were working at this grocery store, and then you took some money, and I remember that night. Uh,
Shoot, she was at
you,
the grocery store
his
immediately whenever I called her too.
let me tell you something. John's mom, we call her Nancy Drew because she's got that mother sense. She's her spidey sense. She knows
Yeah,
when I feel bad for John and Holly because they can't mess up. When they mess up, mom knows. It's just weird. And I remember she walked out and she goes, "I'll be back. I'm driving down to the store. Something's up." And I'm just sitting on the couch like, and I don't know why I ever doubt your mom because she's always right. Next thing she texts me, well, there's a bunch of police cars at the store. And I'm just like,
it wasn't even a bunch;
oh.
it was like two, but
But so John, they did put you in a diversionary program.
yeah, yeah.
But
Uh,
tell the rest of the story.
so the program, it was super lenient for me. Obviously, for some of the other kids, it was horrible, but for me, it was good because I mean, I'm not a bad kid, but
You needed that kick in the butt, didn't you?
I really did. Because then after that, I started getting back into church, and then that's
Well,
actually
why
how
did
I
you get
was.
back into church? It was
Well, that's
because
it.
they
Yeah,
made him do community service, and so you decided to do that through the church.
yeah. Um, so the program gave me community service hours, and then Um, shoot.
You met with Joe. That's when you got with
Yeah.
Joe and Connor that you talked about in this video.
Yeah. And they actually helped me a lot with the community service hours because they gave me a lot of work. And it wasn't hard work because I've done it for, I had done it for prior about 3 years because I started doing production in kids. And then I moved to the all access, which is for the big church. And that's so much fun. Because I've done that for probably about 4 years now after kids.
Yep.
So that's been a lot of fun. But no, they've been teaching me a lot. They kind of took me under their wing, Joe did. And Connor's been a good friend to me.
And I think they really helped you because up to that point, we had John in counseling. John, so what happened was, John, the night that everything came to head was John had drank a whole bottle of scotch. And
I still think that's funny. Shoot, so many people laughed at that.
But what happened that night was that was the night that me and you broke away because you didn't want to admit what had happened. And
Yeah, no,
you had drank the bottle before that. It was like 2 days ago when I found the empty bottle. But the thing is, when I confronted John, you could see it on your face. And that was when I finally had to confess. I know what you're going through because I've been there too.
Yeah.
And I could see what it was. And you were, you had gone to alcohol or whatever you could, trying to take care of the pain, self-medicate.
Yeah. Now I say it's funny because I'm well past that. That was years ago. But at that time,
Right.
Obviously, it wasn't funny. I was very emotional. I was like, as soon as he called me out, I was like crying.
You broke down. But that was a great breakthrough because that was the first time that you admitted what happened and speaking it. What a lot of people don't understand when you're victims of trauma or even your own sin and stuff like that. Once you're able to speak it, though, it takes away that power it has over you. And I remember that night, I could see relief on you. Once you were able to share some of that with me, it was like that burden was kind of lifted off of you.
Yeah. Right after I got my phone back.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you were grounded with it. But some of the things and why we're on here is that journey that you took. Because once you decided to give that to God, what I saw was a young man who decided no longer to be a victim. Joel Osteen, he has some great quotes out there. One of Joel Osteen's quotes is, "You're not a victim, you're a victor. You wouldn't have opposition if there were not something amazing in your future." And I really feel that for John. I feel like God has so much greatness for you. And what the devil meant for evil, here's that verse. No, it's right here. Genesis 50:20 says, "For you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good to bring it about that many should be kept alive as they are today." And the devil tried to take you out with what happened with this man. And this man was someone that we all trusted and knew. And we had no clue that this stuff was going on and taking place. But once you committed to God and turned that around, you changed. And
Yeah.
And your attitude changed, What would you
Sorry.
What would you say was the biggest help to you moving forward from all that?
Probably counseling. Counseling, I mean, it was really hard, but because while I was going through that, I actually ended up um, having really suicidal thoughts as well. And so I got put on medicine for a little bit for that. And
At
so
Baker
that was
Act.
really hard. Yeah, that was really hard. And
But that was, but I think that was, I think God had to take you there to get you, because you weren't really opening up to her as
yeah,
much as you probably should.
yeah, that made me get really close to my counselor. And I also met a lot of friends in the hospital who were super cool. I mean, even the nurses were super supportive. I mean, it was a great hospital. Then the medicine helped a lot. I'm off the medicine now, but it helped a lot. Then counseling was probably the most supportive thing because I
Well,
mean, it kind of gives you that person to just kind of cling to.
yeah. And you can tell, you can, like I said, once you can speak it and get it out and put light on it, it takes away the power from it that it has, you know. Um, there's another verse, not to be real preachy on here today or anything like this, but how do we talk about being an intentional guy and changing our lives when we don't use the word? And 1 Peter 5:8, it said, "Be sober minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour." And that's what he was doing with you. He was trying to devour you. But what I'm so proud about with you is, you know, once you hit that rock bottom, when and that was when you got in trouble. To be honest, when you got arrested and um,
What you say,
around
arrested?
that,
I didn't get arrested like that.
well,
I
you
think
you got put in handcuffs. You got put into a police car. Your
well from
mom
the
had to go
front,
down there. Yeah,
but we did it the
and
right way. We didn't like. I didn't get arrested right there
no,
on the
John
spot.
turned himself in, and but the thing is, that's when you started taking ownership of everything. Um, and that's when you stopped being a victim and started being a victor. Was then, because once you can own it, then you can start fixing it and you can start changing it. And one thing that I told John was, um, John, trust your counselor now. Go through this stuff because you here I am, 55 years old. I've gone through two divorces, terrible relationships, and not be and I own it. When you read my book, you're going to be shocked. I mean, I had the FBI at my door, and it was hard for me to write this because there's stuff John didn't even know until he read the book, and I
Yeah,
was scared. But the enemy wanted to take me out, and I didn't want John to be 55 years old and then dealing with it like I was. And I'm so proud that you dealt with that now and that you continue you continue to go to counseling.
yeah,
You're continuing to do things to make yourself healthy.
yeah.
And I love
And
watching that with you.
it is crazy how quick something like that helps, though. Because I mean, it's been a year, and I mean, it's changed so much. It's gotten so much better, and I'm actually about ready to get out of counseling and start
Yeah.
going in the military and living.
Yeah.
But
But you what happened was you started trusting the process. And I think that's something that mean you can encourage other people out there is trust
absolutely,
the process because you can go kicking and screaming and not follow the process, and then next thing you know you might be sitting in the back of a police car because w- the trauma is going to get to you sooner or later. You can only hold it in so long, right? But
yeah,
trusting that process, that's what brought healing to you. But then what I love so much too, it's the relationship that God brought to you with Joe from our church and Connor. Those two guys poured into you. And I wouldn't say they they didn't act super spiritual around you and all this stuff, but they built a
yeah.
relationship with you.
And actually, that relationship got me closer to God too. Even though they weren't super spiritual on me, they actually looked at me more of a friend than anything else. I mean, they still, that friendship is still based in the church. So
Yeah.
it's still, I mean, the reason why I go every Sunday, see Joe and Connor, I'm doing what I love doing. I love doing production. It's still getting me closer to the church. I mean, I listen to the videos of preaching like 3 times during the day. I mean,
And
yeah,
and you know what I like, John? From where I sit as a parent, I love seeing the change in you. I am so proud, and I know your mom is, of the man that you're becoming. Um, because I can't tell you how hard it was as parents, and especially your mom. It was so hard to we we had at we had to trust the process too. And I remember there were several nights that your mom cried, and I was like, "Trust the process. He's taking the steps. He will get better." And now we're seeing the fruits of your labor, of everything that you've done, you know, and it's shining through really good. You know, you can be proud. John's getting ready to. His dream is to. He graduates next month. Just turned 18 and is wanting to go into the military. But one thing that John wants to do is, uh, me and John hope that maybe by this time next year we're going to do some speaking engagements together. John wants to share his story with other teenagers. Uh, that was one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast today too, is to give other people maybe the strength and the courage to step forward, right, John? Because do you remember the
yeah,
night that we all sat and told you that this guy was arrested for this other kid, and we confronted you,
yeah.
and how scared you were sitting there because what were you? Do you remember why
Yeah,
you were afraid?
yeah, I was getting interrogated.
Yeah, you weren't getting interrogated, but yeah, I can see where you're saying. But also you were afraid that these secrets would become up because this guy, he groomed you, you
Yeah,
know, and it took you
yeah,
a
absolutely.
while to realize that this guy had lied to you all this time, and that what he did to you was wrong. And I mean, it messed you up a little bit because you were forced to deal with something that you shouldn't have had to at such a young
Yeah.
age, you know. So let me ask you this: for people who are watching, because we know there's people watching that have family members or themselves have gone through this, but have not trusted the process yet, or have not, um, done something about it. What would you do to encourage them?
I mean, do it. Trust the, trust it. I mean, because the success that comes from it. I mean, I've gotten so much done in the past year. Last week, I was making more money than I ever have doing production for a professional concert. So an 18-year-old doing that because I've had 3 years learning doing production from a church. So I mean and all that is from God. I wouldn't have that if I hadn't gotten closer to the church, if I hadn't gotten arrested, if I haven't gotten through those hard times. But you have to go through counseling and grind to get all that. I mean, because when you haven't gotten through that, you're depressed all the time. I mean, you don't get anything done.
Yeah.
Mike can relate to that. He was working at a prison whenever he was in his more depressing times, and a lot of that was from the prison. But
Well, a lot of it was
yeah,
from what had happened in my life, and I didn't realize it
exactly,
until the other day. You told me, and it kind of hit home to me because I didn't realize a lot of things until after I left the prison, but also not until I dealt with everything because I ran from God. There were several years that we weren't in church, and that wasn't because of John. That was because of me and my wife. Uh, we were running from God, you know. And when we got out, John said something to me the other day. He goes, yeah, you used to be miserable. You used to be really cranky. And I was like, but what I liked about it is that you have seen a change in me since I have taken the journey as well
Yeah.
to, writing that book was really healthy for me, but mine and your relationship was healthy for me. Me and you, I had to share my story with you, and you shared your story. Together, we were able to help each other heal from something that was horrible.
Yeah. And look how successful you've gotten too. I mean, you just got a new job. You're making a lot of money now. You just started all these podcasts. You got people buying your books. I mean,
Yeah, I wish I was bringing in the dough. But
dude,
what I do like is you said something. I I have a job that allows me now to do more ministry, but that's paying me to do what I like. I work with juveniles in the juvenile system, helping them, and that's stuff that I like doing. God's has given me a purpose. I believed a long time ago when I fell, um, because I fell into sin really bad, that God would never use me again. And I think this has been the happiest year of my life because I got victory in that, you know? And I'm proud of John because John's not going to be an old man like me before he gets victory in it. He's got victory now because you've done the hard work to get there, So
yeah.
I want to tell you how proud I am of you today for being on here with me, doing this podcast. And I do, because I know how guys are. We don't say it, but I think this is a great opportunity. If Joe and Connor are watching right now, what would you like to say to them?
I love you guys. Y'all are awesome. I mean, thank y'all so much for everything y'all have done for me. Connor, you've been a great friend. Joe, you've been an awesome mentor. I mean, you taught me everything that I know. You're awesome, dude. So I appreciate it.
I'm going to tell you, we go to a church called Momentum. Tim Payne is our pastor. I love Tim because Tim, John didn't know probably, but we confide in our pastor right away once we had these suspicions. And our church, let me tell you, if you're not in a good church, man, you got to, because I don't know how we would have survived this had we not had our church family, right?
Absolutely.
They did that, and I love Tim's invested in you. You guys went to a retreat, and I know you and Tim have had some conversation, and it's been a community there. Our church, they love John. They love John, and Cindy Warren all the time. If I say your name, Cindy Warren goes, "I just love that boy. I just love John." And John has one of those. He's a charmer with the ladies.
I'm purdy.
He's purdy.
What can I say?
Well, John, thank you for coming on here. This was incredibly brave for you to share your story today. And let me tell you, we're talking to any of you people out there that you're dealing with this. This has been in your past. You haven't dealt with it before. Maybe this happened 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Maybe this happened last week.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in this alone. There are people who will help you and love you. And if you don't know what to do, reach out to us. We'll help you. Doesn't matter if you live in a different state, whatever. We'll find the help for you, because God does not want you to be a victim. He does not want you to be a victim. And John, I'm so proud of you. I love you. And I just can't wait to see what the future is going to be with you. So let's sign off now. So tell everyone goodbye, pretty boy.
Bye, pretty boy.